Hello, I'm your host Terry Saunders. On this episode of Treasure Expeditions, I travel from Colorado to St. George, Utah for an organized fossil dig. Urgent fossil dig kicks off in St. George, Utah. A power substation will be built on a property that includes prehistoric fossils and tracks. The dig brings out about 20 to 30 community members to dig daily. About 560 people total signed up to volunteer. According to employees from the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site, the dig is scheduled for March, April, May, and possibly June of 2025, although more time is needed. The urgent dig is happening near the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site.
Our small team of St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site is here, and we have now, I hear, 560 or so people signed up to help with it. So we have lots of new people, and we're slowly trying to teach everybody and help us. So we have the whole community, and people are coming from all different states, Wyoming, Texas. We even have people coming from Europe to help in this dig because it's a world-class dig.
David Sloff has been volunteering at the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site for nearly 23 years.
Been a tracker for the museum and hardcore volunteer for almost 23 years now. I do whatever's needed at the museum. I think that's the mark of being a good volunteer, is to do what's needed. I do molding and casting. I sell some casts in the gift shop for tent and rock hammer money, and I do whatever's asked of me in molding and casting for science, which is really gratifying, and I find lots of tracks, so I'm kind of a master tracker for them. And I and Bailey and Todd just kind of spot things at the same time when we're together, which is kind of fun and ironic.
David explains what the team is digging to discover.
So we're digging for fish fossils, dinosaur fossils, and my favorite, tracks. I discovered as they were digging out the area behind us here, when they dug this out and dumped the rock out after they'd found all the fish that they thought could be found here, that there were actually dinosaur tracks and swim tracks that we had no idea. It's a brand new horizon for swimming dinosaurs, and some of the blocks are on top of the hill over there, and now that we know that they're there, as soon as we get the fish out, we'll dig that up more gently, and we should find some really nice dinosaur swimming tracks. Not as well preserved as what we have in our museum, but it also shows that the dinosaurs were swimming and eating fish here. And then we'll going through meticulously through this brown layer where we're finding all sorts of dinosaur teeth and also bones, and we're not sure what else we'll find. We've had a lot of surprises. In the next layer up, we've actually found plant fossils that we could identify, which is really rare in the Mojave here and in this area. And so we know we have that to look forward to. And so that'll be a slow walk through finding more.
David describes how a large fossil is removed.
We find a fossil, we actually dig out around it and make a trench around it. Once we've determined that there's something there, we trench around it until we have a trench deep enough of about 4 inches or so on this surface with fish or whatever we think we may have. You put paper towel as a separator over the fossil and bone, and then you put plaster and burlap on that, and you encase the top of it and let it dry. After it dries, you mushroom under it, and you just dig out around it about a finger length in on all the sides around it. And then we call it flipping the jacket. So when the jacket is dry, you quickly flip it over, you clean out the excess rock, and then you do the same thing with plaster and burlap again to completely mummify it, basically, so it safely goes to the museum, and in the years after, gets prepared out.
David says there are hundreds of specimens and counting.
We've had at least 400 specimens, and I heard our paleontologist say that the other day, so I'm sure it's much more now every day.
David recommends the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site.
I just recommend that they come to our site. Many people that even live here saw it before there was even a museum, if they've lived here for a long time, and they think they've seen it, but we have uncovered a whole world that they have no clue. We have the world's best and undisputed best swimming tracks that were dug out from the school right behind me over here, and we have so much more track material and a building built over it. They can luxuriate in air conditioning and see what we have to preserve, and I've actually had my hands on just about everything that's in the museum.
Lead paleontologist Andrew Milner says more about the fossils found at the dig site.
The green level that I'm standing on, we found approximately 40 fish fossils so far, and the remains of coelacanths, which is a type of lobe-finned fish, so they're more closely related to us than they are to other kinds of fish like perch and pike and things like that. So they're pretty rare animals. And in the upper layer here, we have a layer that's about 1.5 to 2 feet thick, and we call that the upper bone bed. And we're finding rare dinosaur remains, so actual bones and fossilized teeth. We now estimate that we have 2 different kinds of large meat-eating dinosaurs, as well as small meat-eaters as well. We also have remains of 2 different kinds of coelacanths, and one of them has only been found at this particular locality, and it represents a totally new species of coelacanth. We're also finding the remains of new species of freshwater shark, which is pretty important. What else? We're finding the remains of crocodile relatives. So we've got a limb bone so far, part of a limb bone, and we found a few teeth as well.
Milner expresses what he hopes to find.
I would love to find turtles and pterosaurs, so the flying reptiles. That would be nice. Maybe even plant-eating dinosaurs. I'm also hoping we're going to find more skeletal remains of the different kinds of meat-eating dinosaurs that existed here and fed on the fish.
St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site's lead paleontologist, Andrew Milner, says there were important tracks found at the dig site.
Below our feet, we've discovered our 17th track horizon. So this is a totally new level for footprints, and it's the youngest track level that we found within the Monavi Formation at St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site.
Milner reveals how many specimens were found.
We're now over 550 collected specimens. I estimate we're going to find well over maybe 1,500 by the time we're done.
Andrew recommends where to visit to learn more about dinosaurs, including their time on Earth.
St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site is one of them. Yeah, so learn about dinosaurs right after one of the largest mass extinctions on the planet at the end of the Triassic, which occurred around just a little bit over 201 million years ago.
According to St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site, Milner says more about the timeline.
Right, so what I study are fossils from the late Triassic and the early Jurassic. So, like I said, the mass extinction at the end of the Triassic was one of the largest mass extinctions. And we have fossils from both the late Triassic and the early Jurassic, so I do research in both. But this site preserves mostly fossils from the earliest Jurassic. The majority are footprints of dinosaurs and other kinds of animals like crocodile relatives, even the remains traces of fish. And it's also quite unique, this site, because we have associated with the tracks, we have plants and body fossils of animals such as fish, dinosaurs and things like that.
Milner says more about the geology of the dig site.
You find sandstone going all the way back to the Precambrian, so billions of years old. So right at this site though, yeah, it's basically sandstone occurs through most of this rock formation called the Mojave Formation.
Milner says how the paleontologists and volunteers remove the fossils.
Carefully. Yeah, most of the time we have to do it very carefully. It depends what we find. So we find these little tiny shark's teeth, and those can easily be removed with a hammer, just simply breaking the rock open and putting the specimen aside. Sometimes we find more fragile bones that need to be consolidated, so we have to put preservatives, almost like a glue called paraloid. We put it onto the specimens to harden up the fossil and make sure that it doesn't break. Sometimes for larger specimens, I don't know if you can see behind us all of these great big potholes, but we had to actually rock saw, use a concrete saw and cut out around the fossil and then apply toilet paper, multi-use in the field, to add a protective layer between the fossil and the plaster jacket. So we dip burlap in plaster and encase the fossils in the plaster jacket. And then we remove them from the ground and completely seal the fossil to keep them safe and get them safely back to the museum.
Diggers, including me, discovered concretions at the site. Milner defines a concretion.
Concretion usually forms around something organic. So you've got maybe even a grain of sand with algae on it, and you get, in some cases, you get calcium carbonate that builds up around them and forms like a hard ball around them. The concretions at this site, though, are iron concretions. So again, they're forming around something organic like a bone or a scale or even a complete fish. And the iron accumulates around the fossil and forms a hard shell around it.
Milner has been passionate about paleontology for a lifetime.
Started paleontology at the age of 6. I've been fascinated with it for a long time. It's a lot of hard work, so definitely don't do it what I did. And you got to work hard in school, and definitely if you're going to do paleontology, you need to getting a university degree through biology or geology or a combination of the two, and that's what I did. But if you want to go on to do more academic paleontology, I'm a rare case. I only have an undergraduate degree, but I have over 60 peer-reviewed publications. I got kind of lucky with this site falling into my lap. But the usual way to go about it is to get a master's degree, usually through biology or geology, and then a PhD.
Milner says more about the path to becoming a paleontologist.
No, I only have an undergraduate degree, but I get called doctor all the time. So who knows, maybe someday they'll give me a doctorate.
So is that just because of your experience? Has your experience?
I started operating a rock saw at the age of 14, and I've been quarrying fossils all my life. And I've learned about fossils from the Precambrian all the way to the late Pleistocene, so in the last ice age. So over almost 2 billion years of the rock record, I've actually collected fossils from different periods of time, all kinds of different animals and plants. So kind of very diverse. People love dinosaurs, and of course the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site is famous for its dinosaur footprints, and people love dinosaurs. So I was actually more interested in fishes, from the early fish, from the Silurian and Devonian, so fossils that are 400 million years old, and sea scorpions, so animals called eurypterids. That was my main interest. But here I am working on dinosaur tracks and dinosaur bones, and luckily for me, I love fish, so we have lots of fish here too.
Milner talks about the interest in the museum.
Usually we're between 50 to 60,000 visitors at the museum. The signs were taken down on the highway during construction, and they haven't been replaced by the Utah Department of Transportation. But all the press that this excavation, the substation quarry, is getting, the numbers are amazing at the moment. There's nonstop people coming in and out the door. It's fantastic.
Milner reminds us about the location he recommends.
St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site is one of them. Yeah, so learn about dinosaurs right after one of the largest mass extinctions on the planet at the end of the Triassic, which occurred around just a little bit over 201 million years ago.
Companies volunteered use of their excavators for the dig.
give a bit of a promotion to excavation companies that have helped us. So Randy Jones from Canyon Crest Contractors have helped us move a lot of rock from this site. Amon Bateman from AB Excavation has been using a small excavator to do more precision excavation in the quarry behind us. And Handy Excavation have been in recently, and they're moving lots of rock and sorting through the rock, this giant rock pile, which also contains lots of fossils. And this rock was pushed here when they built the school. So it's full of fossils, and we're going through it. And there's some important fossils coming out of it.
Milner emphasizes the importance of scientific discovery.
Digging into the past, you never know what you're going to find. There's always new discoveries to be made, and we're making new discoveries at this site.
I view a rare sitting dinosaur fossil, including a right hand print, left hand print, butt print, and tail drag. I view a rare and fascinating fossil of a dinosaur splashing in a puddle. Stop into the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site. Live the adventure. Discover more. Remember, the greatest treasures are the memories you make along the way. For Wire Ride TV on Roku and WireRide.com, I'm Terri Saunders.